No, and he got in with a very low proportion of the vote. He got in by default because people were unhappy with the Conservatives. They voted Labour. They didn't particularly like him. And now it's gone from bad to worse. He's been caught accepting donations to pay for his wife's dresses. He's been accepting more freebies than any other MP in Parliament. But meanwhile, because of their disastrous economic policies, they are cutting payments to old people, just as energy prices are going up here in the UK. So it's a disastrous start for his government because they came in with no ideas about what they were going to do, apart from saying the Conservatives are evil. That was their only policy.
Politics is a real drama, isn't it? In an instant, the secrets that were whispered in dark corners suddenly become public knowledge. And the next moment, the promises that once sounded from the stands are forgotten, leaving behind bitter consequences for millions of lives. Today, two striking figures, Keir Starmer and Liz Truss, are in the spotlight, and each of them is going through their own trials. The current Prime Minister is facing fierce criticism of his policies, as if under fire from an unrelenting enemy. And Liz Truss, though she was in office for a short time, ignites real passions, causing heated debates and exposing the disturbing secrets of the Labour government. She just shared her revelations about Keir Starmer here in Australia, and it caused a real stir.
It's unilateral economic disarmament. While India and China are building more coal-fired power stations, getting more oil and gas, we in Britain have ended up closing down our oil and gas. This is what's happening under this Labour government. We've just closed our last steel works, producing virgin steel because energy is unaffordable. The British government is refusing to do fracking, which could make our energy cheaper. And it's a disaster. Our economy is stagnating. Meanwhile, China is selling us solar panels. I mean, why does that make sense? And the problem is we have a Labour Party now in government who are saying that climate change is more of a threat to the future of the world than China. Now, that simply isn't true.
What would you do if someone told you that the best way to solve a problem is to make it worse? That's exactly what many critics of Labour's economic plans under Keir Starmer think. At first glance, it seems simple and logical. Raise taxes, tighten regulations, and reduce the billion-dollar financial deficit. But on closer inspection, everything starts to fall apart, like a house of cards. Let's figure it out. The Labour Party intends to increase revenue by increasing employer contributions to public insurance. Sounds good, doesn't it? But here's the catch. Businesses are already facing huge costs, from rent to salaries. Increasing taxes is like tying weights to their feet and expecting them to be able to run a marathon. When companies can't grow, they stop recruiting employees, and as a result, people lose their jobs.
Mr. Speaker, I am a fighter and not a quitter. I am a fighter and not a quitter. We have delivered on the energy price guarantee. We've delivered on the energy price guarantee. We've delivered on national insurance. We are going to deliver to stop the militant trade unions disrupting our railways. The honourable gentleman has no idea, he has no plan, and he has no alternative.
Not everything is as simple as it seems at first glance. Labour is considering introducing a capital gains tax, a tax that you pay when you sell something valuable, whether it's your house or stocks. They plan to increase this tax, and although it may seem fair, it may actually scare off investors. Think about it. If you knew that you would lose a significant portion of your profits, would you risk investing money at all? Many will simply refuse to invest, and this will lead to the fact that much less funds will flow into the economy. But that's not all. The Labour Party also wants to reduce the amount that families can transfer without paying inheritance tax. Imagine that you have worked tirelessly all your life to ensure the future of your children, and after your death, the government takes away most of your savings. This is exactly what many families are afraid of. And it's not just numbers, it's fates, it's lives. And if that's not enough, the Labour Party is also targeting pensions, planning to reduce tax-free family care payments. Critics such as the Economic Development Commission are sounding the alarm, warning that these plans could have disastrous consequences. Their report says that by 2030, the average person could earn almost £3,800 less than they do now. Why is this happening? Because when companies and individuals have less money to spend, the economy starts to shrink. It's not just mathematics, it's a reality that affects each of us.
Well, I think the problem in Britain has got much worse, and it got worse during the Blair government, because he put in lots of legislation like the Human Rights Act, like the Equality Act, that ended up tying politicians' hands. And we weren't brave enough to take on those ideas when we were in government. So we were boxed in by the Blairite consensus, and that's made it very hard for us to deport illegal immigrants. It's made it very hard for us to put in proper policies on women being women and men being men. And the problem is that in Britain, the bureaucrats' power has grown over time. So more power that used to rest in the hands of MPs now lies in the hands of the Bank of England, or the Office of Budget Responsibility, or the Migration Advisory Council. And you need a long time to...
Liz Truss, during her short and tumultuous term as Prime Minister, tried to introduce a completely new approach. She sought to reduce taxes and create more favourable business conditions. Her plan was bold and ambitious, but unfortunately it failed to materialise, faced with insurmountable obstacles. Truss's supporters are confident that if her ideas had been given a chance, the economy could have flourished today. But she failed to achieve the tax increases she had hoped for. The tax, which was first introduced by Jeremy Hunt and which, according to forecasts, was supposed to bring the country $3.2 billion, will now turn into losses as many people leave the country. Who would have thought that a constant increase in taxes would lead to people simply stopping working and leaving? And here's the question. Will Labour's tough approach really solve the problem, or will it only accelerate the economy's descent into the abyss? Only time will tell, but the stakes in this game are incredibly high. Imagine that you live in a society where you are afraid to express your real thoughts, where your opinion can cause serious consequences. This is exactly what many fear, because the Labour Party is promoting its controversial policies that threaten freedom of speech in all its forms.
He's massively out of touch with what normal people in Britain think. He is part of an elite political class that is obsessed with climate change. They don't like Israel, they're pro-Palestinian, they are anti the instincts, the patriotism of normal British people, and he is governing in the interests of that group of people. It's the lawyers in London, it's the people working in the big corporates, it's the civil servants and the bureaucrats. And most people in Britain do not agree with these policies, and this is why this government is already very unpopular. Keir Starmer's ratings have plummeted because they're seen as hypocrites, but they're also seen as representing a very narrow group of people who live in the big cities, who work for the public sector.
If the government starts to decide what is harmful, then how can it silence opinions that it does not like? Platforms like X may come under pressure to delete messages that are completely legitimate, but not in anyone's best interests. In such a situation, universities will also be at risk. Labour recently repealed the Freedom of Speech Act, which was supposed to protect diversity of opinion on college campuses. Critics are alarmed to warn that without this law, students and teachers with unpopular views may face harsh reactions or even lose their jobs. Liz Truss strongly emphasises the importance of protecting freedom of speech and accuses the Labour Party of what she believes is a dangerous abuse of power. She even praised Elon Musk for his bold defence of open dialogue on Platform X, saying it is a cornerstone of democracy. Musk himself has repeatedly warned about the risks of censorship, and his fight for freedom of speech has become a real global event that has made headlines.
Well, he's been hopeless, absolutely hopeless. What has happened in Britain is there's been a partial arms embargo put on Israel just when they need the weaponry to deal with these appalling terrorist attacks. And it's the same issue as here in Australia. They are seeking to appease people on the left of politics, Islamists, instead of doing what is right. And it's not just right for Israel, It's right for the whole of Western civilization.
The leaders of the Labour Party sincerely believe that these measures are necessary to create a safer and more respectful society. But at what cost? Can we really build a better world if we suppress voices we disagree with? This is not just a matter of political debate. It is a matter of our deepest values. What kind of country do we want to be? A country where everyone has the right to vote and can freely express their thoughts? Or a country where only a few decide what to say and what not to say? Share your thoughts in the comments. See you later.